Hello everyone, I can just realise that people are joining, which is great. I can see Anne's here, Joe's here, Exafran's here. I think Anil's here. Welcome everybody. Pause and reflection saying I'm waving. It's great to have you all here. I hope your day's gone well. Mine's been really, really busy. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. See who else is joining us. Thanks for the waves. Oh, I think Colour Clouds is here. Thanks for the wave. Lively Photo is here. Caroline's here. Thank you both for the waves. Yolly's is here. Thank you. Welcome. Fort Field is here, HQ, Living Minds are here. Oh, Anil, all the way from Pakistan. Fantastic to have you here. I wonder what time it is out there. It's great. Is it morning or is it evening? I'm not sure about the time in Pakistan. Victoria's here, thank you. Bereavement Room's just joined, welcome. Asu 0681's just joined. Welcome. Mickey Wah is here. Thank you. Welcome. Do you know what's really interesting on this live? I can't actually see the time, so someone's going to need to tell me that. We've got plenty of time. People are lovely and early. It's great. Welcome, Asu. Mullah's here. 7UK. Mickey's here. Welcome, everybody. Can't actually see all of my face, so let's just see if I change that a little. That will make a difference. It's a little bit better. Hello Selva, hello Cutie Pie Claire. I see you just come back again, great. I hope you can all see all of my face because I'm only seeing half of my face at the moment. Living Mind is here. Oh, great. Thank you, Anne. I'm glad that you can all see me. Sedmo's joined. Welcome. So I hope you've got pens and notebooks. I'm not sure about how I'm going to structure this first one in terms of whether we're actually going to do a writing exercise on the call, but I know definitely going forward, as you get used to these sessions, I want to make sure that we do a writing exercise or activity on the session as well. But today I might just do a bit more talking, introduce you to some of the kind of fundamentals about what journaling and reflective writing is all about. Someone's pause and refocus. I love what you've said to me, actually. Pause and refocus has said, I love that you are saying account names. It's making me smile. Well, you're making me smile joining me. So, but it's making me squint a bit, actually. So I'm going to have to try and do this on my iPad next time because my eyesight's not great. So Ami G Fizmail's just joined. NG Nuruddin's just joined. Welcome. Razabil's just joined. Welcome. Yeah, so I was just saying, make sure you have pen and paper ready. What time are we on? We've still got a good few minutes. Post me any questions, actually, that you have for our call today, so I can capture those and come back to those in the chat. Let me just grab myself a blank sheet of paper. And actually, whilst you're joining, I just want to hold up my book, 49 Ways to Write Yourself Well, because there's loads of huge tips and tools in there. And what I like about it, actually, it's got pictures in it. Let's find some pictures for you. I love trees. Yeah, I thought I can't do a writing book without images in it. Let's find another one. Oh, my Writing the Labyrinth. That one seems to be doing the rounds around the place. So yes, 49 Ways to Write Yourself Well. So Suhan's joined. Pippa has joined. Welcome. Great to have you all here. Okay, just asking everyone to have pen and paper. I'm going to put my headphones on now, I think. So let's just find my bits and pieces. Great. Oh, Piscalong has joined. Mandy J8 has joined. Invictus Writers. I follow you, don't I? Oh, I'm sure I've looked on your site. Welcome. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So do post any questions you have, any challenges you're having with journaling or writing. I'd love to answer some of those today, if at all possible. So I've got it about 56 or 57 minutes to. Osak's just joined. Welcome. Lovely. So there's quite a lot of us here, and I just want to make the most of the time that we have. I'll probably talk for about 20 minutes to half an hour. Anne's saying I've gone a bit quiet. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take, is this better, Anne? I'm going to take my earphones out, so maybe that changed how I sounded. So just let me know if I've gone back a bit louder. Caprice has just joined. Welcome. Dina, great to have you here. Thanks for the wave. Thanks for the waves, Caprice. Thank you, Timmy. Okay, so Anne, if you just send me a message, just let me know if you can pause and refocus. I think that's better. The headphones had to go. All right. So thank you so much. You're great. You're really helping me out today. This is my first live for Psychologies on Writing to Flourish, the new monthly Instagram live that I'm going to be doing on behalf of Psychologies magazine. So shall we dive in? I'd like to warmly welcome all Psychologies readers, subscribers and fans to Psychologies to the first Insta Live of Writing to Flourish. My name is Jackee Holder, and I have been writing a column called Paper Therapy in Psychologies magazine for I think the last 2.5 years. Each month I share a different journal prompt, and it's great because it gives you an opportunity to have a prompt that you can take into your writing, into your journals, into your notebooks. I have been collating writing prompts for, oh my gosh, it's probably over 20 years. I have over 100 journals, and when I moved about 3 years ago, I was surprised by how many journals I had collated, and it just really reinforced the fact that I am a really dedicated and committed journal writer. Not just because I love writing and that it is something that I really, really love to do, but I have found that journal writing has been hugely beneficial to me in all sorts of ways, both on a personal level and on a professional level. And I really want to share some of that with you today, because I think that, you know, we are in a time of great transition. We've not hit this in modern times as we have known it. And I really do believe that journal writing is an absolutely beneficial, generative tool that we can use to really help us move through this pandemic, but also to really think about how we can flourish and thrive during this time. And that's what I really want to speak to today. But let me just get a few kind of important things out of the way. I'd like to mention that if you would like to receive the latest copy of Psychologies magazine, you just need to go to the link in their bio and you can get the magazine sent out and posted out to you. And I want to say that one of the things that I've really appreciated about the pandemic and COVID-19, not appreciate in a way of it being a positive thing, but of course there have been some positive benefits that have come out of it. But I have really enjoyed receiving magazines through the post like Psychologies, which comes through the post every month. I love having that in my post box, but also getting letters. And I know that there are some people on this live stream today who have sent me letters and sent me cards through the post. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of research that has been done around letter writing and writing letters in your journals and posting letters as well as a way of really processing your emotions and your feelings. I always go back to the kinds of feelings that I have when I receive a letter, just knowing that somebody has had their pen in their hand, they've thought about me, they've thought about what they've wanted to write, they've probably gone into a very mindful place. They've, the fact that the palms of their hands have made contact with the page. I think all of those things boost the well-being benefits of writing letters and writing by hand. And actually, we know from the journal writing research that writing by hand has more benefits. And Pause and Refocus has said, "Oh, I love writing letters." And that's one of the things I've really appreciated about this time is I've written more letters and I've received more letters. And the research shows that when we write by hand, we retain more information. So they've done research where they got people to memorize information, and then they got some people to record what they remembered on their keyboards, and they got some to record by writing it down. And guess what? Those who wrote it down remembered so much more. So we know there's actually cognitively and emotionally and in terms of our well-being that there are huge benefits that we get from writing our thoughts and our feelings down on paper. In the journal, you can write letters to people that you don't send, so you can get out all of your emotions and your feelings. Just think about what we've gone through, what so many of you have gone through with COVID-19 and the pandemic. You can write letters about things that have upset you, worried you, you're concerned about. I've been really noticing the environment around me, lots more people at home, a lot more litter and rubbish around. Even before I might send a letter to my email to my local council, I process some of that in my journals. You can write letters to people that you don't send. That's been a huge benefit of journaling, is writing letters where you can write to a person that you just get out everything that you feel and you get it down on paper. But the big thing here is that you don't send it. That way you give yourself complete permission to be yourself on the page, to say all the things that you feel. You don't have to censor yourself. You don't have to be nice. You don't have to be polite. You can just tell it like it is. And guess what? You're lightening your load. You're lifting the weight. And that has huge implications for your emotional resilience, your emotional intelligence. And just think about all of the kind of processing, offloading that you're doing. And often that frees you up to really focus on what it is you really want to say or how you want to be with that person. So I'm a real advocate of writing letters, physical letters that you put in the post. And just to say, I love putting stickers on them. I love hand lettering my letters because, it's, as I said on my Instagram post, and my Instagram handle is Jackee Hole, JackEehol. You will see lots of references and examples of letter writing there in your journals, but also letters that people send to me. And in one post that I wrote about recently, I said, when I received that letter, it was like a whole universe in one envelope. So that's a very, very quick tip. But let me get back to script because I've got a bit of a plan for us today. So let's dive in. And what I want to do today is to talk about two journaling practices that have underpinned my journal practice for the last 30 years. They're very simple practices. They're relatively short And I think that's really important, because I think very often we often think about that journal writing is going to be quite a long process. Before I continue, I just want to say that Ladies Who Lunch says that I absolutely love receiving my beautifully handwritten and decorated envelopes. I'm always sending her stuff through the post, and I just love handwriting her name and her address. So she's one of the benefactors of getting those hand scripted letters through the post. What a wonderful gift we could give to each other. So maybe I hope that you will all be encouraged to do more of that when you come off the call. But back to my tips. So 2 simple journal writing tips. They're very short. You don't need a lot of time, because often that's, I think, one of the things that gets in the way of people and their journal writing. They have underpin, they're like the foundations, they're like the roots of my journaling practice. If I don't do anything else, I do this first tip that I'm going to talk about. And then the second tip, this is my example of what was the absolute entry point to me becoming a committed and regular journal writer. So what we're going to do is to really think about, one, how you can take these tips into your own journal writing, but also I want to leave you with a better understanding, if you're not aware of this already, about how you can harvest what you write about in your journal. Okay, so I want to give you a bit of a story. The first journaling exercise I want to talk about is called 7 Minutes of Spiritual Grace. Now, I came up with this journaling practice, I think it was about 20 years ago. God, I'm showing my age now, aren't I? Was it 20 years ago? Maybe it was about 15 years ago. Anyway, I want to set the scene for it. One, I like the number 7. I like the number 7 because of all the different things that it represents. I like the fact that you've got things like 7 days of the week. You've got 7 wonders of the world. You've got, what other 7s have you got? 7 is just a very auspicious number in terms of what it stands for, what it represents, the 7 colours of the rainbow. So I came up with this idea of how could I really use number 7 as a very grounding journaling practice. But this was actually based from me running a lot of creative writing retreats, workshops and seminars. And what I realised was that I used to introduce 5-minute writing exercises, 3-minute writing exercises. But by time, Timmy says the 7 deadly sins. Well, we might write about that as a journal prompt. Thanks for that one, Timmy. That wasn't one of the 7s that I was thinking about. But I thought, what I realised was that by the time I got to using the 7 minutes, something quite extraordinary was happening. So picture this. I'm running a creative writing workshop for women. It's in South London. The room is packed with women. Women are sitting on chairs. Women are sitting on the floor. We introduce ourselves. There feels like there's a lot of energy in the room. So before we do anything else, it's a self-empowerment workshop. I decide that we're going to start with the journal practice of 7 minutes of spiritual grace. I talk a little bit about the practice. I make sure that everyone's got pen and paper. And then I invite the group to, and this is what I said to them, I want you to free write. I want you to write whatever is in your head. I want you to take what is in your head and I want you to put it down on the page. And guess what? You don't have to worry about spelling. You don't have to worry about grammar. You don't have to worry about punctuation. All I want you to do is to just use the page as your dumping ground. You can think about it as you dump, you dump, you dump. That comes from a Canadian coach. She's really, really good. Her name's going to come to me in a minute. I'll come back and I'll tell you her name. So that's what they did. So I put the timer on for 7 minutes. Hi, Rashida. Hi, Piscalong. Oh, yeah, you're saying yes. Thank you. Welcome, Sheetal. So that's what I did. I put the timer on for 7 minutes. And it was this sort of magical moment of watching the majority of the room bow their heads, see their arms moving across the page. Some people were staring into space before they started to write, but eventually everybody's head went down and everybody was scribing. So it was, there were no barriers. It was like, write whatever. You can write how you're speaking to yourself. You can hear your inner voice. You could write about what you were thinking about. You could write about what you were worrying about. You might even have an idea, a really good idea that has been running around in your head, but you haven't done anything about it. But you write it down on the page. And that's what they did in the room. And what was really interesting, as somebody holding the space, what I realised was there was this delicious hush over the room as everybody became totally engaged in the free writing practice of just writing for 7 minutes. And this is what we talk about. So there's somebody called, her name is Kathleen Adams. I started reading her work many, many, many years ago. She's one of the forerunners and founders of journal writing practice. And she's got this lovely model she calls the journal ladder. And this idea of free writing is right at the top of her journal ladder. And that's often a way of warming yourself up into the writing. It's not always easy for everybody, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But that particular day, this room, they got it, and they wrote and they wrote. And we got to 6 minutes, and I said to the room, you've got a minute left. And then a minute came, and the timer went off, and I looked around the room, and everybody was still writing. I was like, okay, can you write to the end of your sentence? A few seconds went by. Everybody was still writing. A few looked up, they looked around, they saw everybody else was still writing, and their heads went back down again. So I thought, okay, so I'll give them another minute. And I gave them 8 minutes. Then I gave them 9 minutes. Then I gave them 11 minutes. Then I gave them 15 minutes. In the end, I gave them 17 minutes before I said, we've got to stop. It was an amazing feeling to witness that with about 50 women in the room. And it was almost as if everyone had given themselves permission to meet themselves on the page. Because when they looked up, the faces that were looking back at me were not the same faces that went down. It was almost like their faces had come alive. When I looked around the room, and there was no speaking, by the way, some people had tears streaming down their faces because they gave themselves complete permission to have 17 minutes. So we went for longer, but I was trying to make a point there that actually they didn't want to stop. And that's a really good tool for your journaling. When you give yourself a timed session of 7 minutes, it's what I call your 7-minute incubator to settle into the writing. 3 minutes is easy to be distracted. 5 minutes, I think we're just getting really warmed up. But by 7 minutes, I think you find your flow. I think you find your voice. And I think that's what happened to the women in that room. And when they found their voices, I think they didn't want to leave themselves because they knew that it was a bit like a plant growing roots. It has to have those healthy roots that are planted and grow underground before it grows above ground. So it's almost like they were laying down their foundations on the page. They were getting all of the debris, all of the stuff that was blocking up their cognitive thinking, their creative thinking, their intuitive thinking, all of those good ideas that sometimes get covered over, all of those positive qualities, their resourcefulness, all of that stuff covered up all underneath all of that. So for me, journal writing is an opportunity. I personally have experienced it like this, of being able to see the wood for the trees. Just in a short 7-minute practice, that is what I believe many of those women were able to do. And that is what I feel I have been able to do over the course of 30-something years that I have been journaling. So let me just give you a couple of provisos. I would love it if you could write these down. Thank you, Vic. I'm glad that this is making sense for people. There's a key here. You've got to write fast. And I'll tell you why. Think about this. I learnt this from Julia Cameron many, many years ago. She's the author of a book called The Artist's Way, and I'll come to her in a minute. But your inner critic goes at the speed of 35 miles an hour. Think about it. When you're writing fast, you're bypassing your inner critic. So your inner critic hasn't got time to say to you, oh, you're not spelling right, your punctuation's not right. Oh my God, that's awful, you shouldn't say that. Oh, come on, you don't think that. Really, do you? Your inner, you literally, it's like you're in a motor car going down the motorway and you're bypassing your inner critic, trying to hitchhike on the side. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. But you're bypassing, you're like, nah, I haven't got time for you. And you are keeping on track. I really love that Julia Cameron said that. And that's really, really helped me. And it's amazing, one, what you can release and what you can let go of. And two, what you can really connect with on the page that is really of value for you. Because coming back to that whole thing about what I was saying about seeing the wood for the trees. So that's the thing I would say to you. It's really, really important to write as fast as you can. Obviously, there are other times when we're thinking through what we're writing, but I'm seeing this as the way in which we clear the decks. Pause and reflect saying, I used to do morning pages. So let me talk about the morning pages because that was my entry point. So I'm a young mother, my daughter's just a toddler. My friend sends me this book through the post all the way from America over, again, back to my age again, 30-something years ago. It lands in the letterbox. I'm having a bit of a bad day. Work's overwhelming. I start reading The Artist's Way and I am hooked. I'm particularly taken by the practice of writing 3 pages of longhand, a longer version of what I've just talked about in terms of the 7 minutes of spiritual grace. So that's what I did. Every morning, without fail, I'd get up before I did anything else and I'd write those 3 pages of longhand, and I would literally write out, as if I was talking to my best friend, everything that I was feeling about my full-time job, which at the time was a very demanding job. I had responsibility for a borough-wide brief for training for women. I had a huge budget. I wanted to do a good job. I was also a new mum. I was also growing into that role. I was interested in lots of other things as well. I wanted to do well in the world. I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to be a good mummy as well. So I needed to have somewhere where I was making sense of all of this. And guess what? The page helped me to do that. So morning pages became the practice that grounded me in keeping a regular and consistent journal. It was amazing what happened from there. I didn't bring down my first book, Soul Purpose, to show you, but I can guarantee you that my first book, Soul Purpose, actually was birthed on the pages of writing those morning pages. Because guess what happened? not only did I write about stuff that was really annoying or I found irritating or stuff that I was angry about or upset about, it also gave me permission to write about stuff that I had a vision for. So I realised as I started writing the morning pages that not only did I love reading books, but I wanted to write books for women. And by writing about it, it made it more real. I began to see what was really important to me. So the morning pages for me was how I grew the roots of and the foundations of my journal writing practice. And I think it's a really good time. Just think about the pandemic. I've seen a lot of posts with the title, The Pandemic Journals. And I've been thinking about that actually, thinking about what will somebody learn about who I have been in this time during COVID-19? What if somebody came into your life for the period of from March, say, to September of 2020, and they found your notebook or they found your journal or they found things that you were writing in on your phone, wherever you write, what would they learn about you? What would they notice about you? What would they discover about you? You know, how are we recording our lives during this time? That's what the morning pages gave me. It gave me a real understanding of becoming a better observer of life, becoming a better observer of myself, really becoming much more discerning, learning to be more responsive rather than be more reactive. It awakened me actually to so much more that was available to me in life. So these two practice, 7 minutes of spiritual grace and the practice of writing 3 pages of morning pages are the foundations of my journal writing practice. So that's what I really want to encourage you for the next 7 days. Just thinking about, could you do 7 minutes of spiritual practice and give yourself permission that if you want to write for longer, that you do. I also want to encourage you to think about, you don't have to write at a desk. I write in my car, I write sitting on a park bench, I write on buses. Well, I don't get on buses much anymore, but I used to do a lot of writing on trains. So I want you to say to yourself that actually you can give yourself permission to write in any place that you feel you can seat yourself, bum on the seat, and you can pull out your iPhone or your phone and write on your notes or write in your notebook. I didn't bring all my little props actually, but I have this very little notebook that I pop into my my hoodie when I'm out walking, and I have a pencil so that I can hold up my notebook and I can write in my notebook sometimes, because it's amazing when I walk, and I will do a monthly Insta Live on walking and writing, because to me they really do go together. There's so much that I get in terms of how the imagination just opens up when I walk, that actually I know I have to have my notebook close by, because that's when great ideas come. There's so much I want to share with you, honestly, because I have been doing this for years. I used to be a long distance runner. And then when I did my knee in, I now walk. So I've really understood how walking really impacts my creative practice, how it has really shaped my writing life, how it has enabled my writing to be translated and transformed into published books. You know, I've got my free ebooks on my website. In fact, you can go to my website, jackieholder.com, JACKEE. I'll put that in the comments in a moment. And you can download my free journal writing my free journal journey ebook. I've also got a lot of ebooks on my website that are free, that have quotes and inspirations for the writing life. My thing is I like to nourish writers and creatives. I've been nourished by so many writers, either in book form or in personal form, through all the different interviews that I've done with writers over the years, both live and on podcasts, and just the huge amount of inspiration that I've got from books. And this is my way of giving back. So I would love to hear any of your thoughts, your questions. It'd be lovely if you post any questions or any comments that you have about what I've shared so far, because I feel like I've been talking for the last 20 minutes. It's lovely to see so many of you here. Thank you so much for joining. So just as we're waiting for any questions or any comments, I'm seeing lots of waves, lots of hearts fluttering all over the place. Just a couple more things. There's quite a lot of research around the therapeutic benefits of journal writing. One of the equations that I've come up with, I wish I'd written that in the comment first actually, is when you write about the tough stuff and you balance that with writing about the good stuff, and in a way, when you do your 7 minutes of spiritual grace or you do your morning pages, that's often a way that you can collate the rough stuff and the good stuff together. And when you do both of those, just Google her, Laura King. She writes about the benefits of writing about the good stuff. And Dr. James Pennebaker, I'm not going to go into him now because I'll come to him in another Insta Live. He writes about the benefits of writing about trauma in a contained way over 3 to 5 consecutive days for 15 to 20 minutes. And what they found, there were huge benefits about writing both about trauma and both about writing about the good stuff. So that's telling us something, isn't it? That when we really get into, this real flow and this balance of writing about all the stuff that's happening in our lives, there are therapeutic benefits like going to your doctors less. And in fact, doctors' surgeries and the NHS are now social prescribing. And some of that social prescribing includes reading poetry, writing in a journal, getting out into nature. So the walking, the writing, the poetry, the journaling, is all there in the social prescribing. That's because they know from the scientific research around the benefits of writing in a journal and doing all of those things. So Pause and Refocus says, I really like the piece about the inner critic and its speed. So writing fast makes sense. Great. And you can see how that can be really beneficial. And just a little heads up here. When I have deadlines and I'm procrastinating, I'm a fantastic procrastinator, by the way. The writing fast is the best way for me to start a piece, because it doesn't matter how rubbish I think it's going to be. So Anne Lamott talks about your shitty first drafts. She's absolutely right. Whenever I go back, so I write fast, I just write out everything that I'm thinking, even if I think I haven't got it all formed together yet. But yet when I go back to it with a highlighter pen, I can always underline a word, words, a line or sentences. There's always going to be something good that I can then take that into another piece. So that's a really good tip for the writing fast. Rashida's saying that she admits that 2020 and lockdown have catapulted her journaling. So I take from that, Rashida, that you're doing even more journaling in this time. And you know what? I really think it'd be good if somebody did some research into that to see if We have increased the number of journal writers during this time, which is why I think it's really good that we're doing this, this Insta Live now. And I've got some good news for you, because you're going to be finding me in Psychologies. I'll talk about that in a little bit, you'll find me in the magazine monthly in a bigger way, actually. Little announcement coming up around that soon. Dina says, can you talk about doodling and other ways of journaling? Oh, thank you for that question. Let me see if I can find my notebook. I know that you've asked that question because you're a great doodler. And, I think it's a great question because there are so many ways to write. We're not just talking about written words. You can draw, and I draw in my journal. I draw lots of plants, I draw pens, I draw people, but anything that is a way that you want to express yourself, either in drawing or visually or in writing. I letter my writing, and I find that really, really helps. And I say all of that has permission to be in your journals and your notebooks. And Jane says, walking is an excellent way to start thinking, isn't it, Jane? And I'll start taking a notebook. Oh, I'm so happy that I don't go anywhere without my notebook, Jane. And I think it's so important. And some brilliant ideas come to me. I can literally craft a piece by walking and just getting those main headers down, and I'll come back and I'll just type it straight out onto my laptop or onto my notes on my iPhone, and that's it. I've got it, I've captured it, I've got the essence, I've got the juice of the piece, and then it's just down to me to really edit it and make sense of it. And it just, those pieces are often so alive. Pause and Refocus says, that Dina, she wants you to know, or he wants you to know, that they've started doodling during lockdown, which is great. So you know what? I think we need to do a doodle poll on this. And I know there's a way that we can do these on Insta Live, so I'm going to work it out how to do this next time. Vic says she's loving this. Vic, I'm loving having you here. Somebody sent a request to be in the live video. I think if I press yes, they will be in the video. If I press view, okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Have I lost you all? Let's see. Great, I'm not sure what I was doing there. Someone sent a request to be live in the video. I'll try and work that out. Anne says she always gets her best ideas with walking. Now, isn't this interesting? Lockdown has all been about how many more people have gotten into appreciating nature. I'm a regular walker of the Thames Path. I join it in Battersea, and I sometimes walk as far as Kew Gardens. And I used to be able to walk that Thames Path with literally sometimes not passing many people. Now it's packed. But I think that's wonderful because, given that we're now working from home, given that, we're back to back on Zoom or MSM Teams, getting out for a walk should be part of your structured day, so that you can offload, you can download, you can synchronize your ideas. And so it's a wonderful way to really lubricate, activate, stimulate your ideas. So wonderful. I love that, Lucy, what you've said. Welcome back, by the way, Rashida. Lucy, you said in the silence, the answers always come. I remember I had a coach, her name was Laura Berman Fortgang. She was one of the earlier life coaches, wonderful, wonderful woman. She was my coach for a while back in the early days. And she used to say, silence is the natural organizer. So I love that. And if you take the word silent, you will find that embedded in the word silent are the same letters for the word listen. Isn't that wonderful? So actually in silent, when we're silent, we get to listen, and we often get to listen to that inner voice that is wise and intuitive. And that's what we want to capture on the page. Timmy says he misses Kew Gardens. Timmy, I miss Kew Gardens too. I used to go there and hang out all day and work in Kew Gardens. I would have coaching sessions with clients in Kew Gardens, and I would wander with my notebook and get great inspiration. And if I'm not wrong, I think that Kew Gardens has actually reopened. It's big enough for social distancing. I have a funny feeling it has reopened. I've got yearly annual membership, so I'm going to check that out. It's just I haven't really been on the trains much. So, oh look, it's been confirmed. Kew Gardens is open. Pause and Refocus has confirmed that. So there you go, Timmy. A date in Kew Gardens with your notebook in hand. So, okay, I see we've gone past the 30-minute... we've gone past 30 minutes and I could go on. So let me leave you with a couple of things. Now, next time we're together, pause and refocus. It says you just need to book to go to Kew Gardens, which is wonderful. I'm going to book myself a day in the next 2 weeks. So a couple of things I want you to leave you with. Next time that we're back here on Insta Live, I want to really help you understand how to then harvest what you write. But it's really important that we get into the writing practice. Lucy says that moving to Brighton from London has been the best energy shift recommended for locating out of London. Well, when my book comes out, The Girl Who Loves Trees, Lucy, I'm going to challenge you a bit around that. Because what I have done is I have found that nature in London with 48% of green spaces, I feel like I am in the countryside sometimes. But I do get what you're saying, that, you know, moving down to Brighton, I know that Brighton just feels like there's so much open space. And I really do get that because I went to university in Brighton and so many other places in the UK. But I really want to get us to savour our urban environments as well. Dina says this has been fab. Timmy's saying thank you. Sandy's saying she's really enjoyed the session. Jackie's saying she's really enjoyed it. Jackie's come all the way from Barbados to be on this session. This is fantastic that we've had people from, you know, so wide. And I hope to see even more people. But we are going to have to finish here. So let me just finish with these tips to take away. We're going to talk about on the next session about how you harvest stuff in your sessions. So I want you to think about, we're just going to hold this in mind. We're going to learn how to write and reflect on what we've written. So we're going to do that from noticing. So when you do your 7 minutes or you do your morning pages, you can just take a couple of minutes and go back, read over what you've written and just write yourself some notes about what your observations are about how you feel about what you've written, what you've noticed about what has come out in your writing, and anything that you want to build on or follow on. Because sometimes I get great ideas based on what I've just written about. So even though there might be lots of stuff that I didn't really enjoy, or, you know, I might have been writing stuff about stuff that's angst or stuff that's going on. It's just the other stuff that's come out. I think, oh, that's a really good idea for a workshop, or that's a really good idea for a blog post. And I take that and I write it down in my notebook and I have it in a place where I can go back to it. So what I want to say is that your notebooks and your journals can be a great source of inspiration for your creativity, your productivity, your effectiveness in your work, your leadership, your writing and your creative life. And we're really going to build on this as we go along. I want to remind you that the rough stuff plus the good stuff equals the right stuff, as in WRITE. Thank you, Vic. I'm so happy that you're here with your daughter and that both you and your daughter have really enjoyed and loved this session today. Adele, thank you for thanking me for the session. And so I will leave you with these writing prompts to take away. So you might just want to have your pen and paper close by. Even though we are in the hub of the pandemic, there's still a lot of good stuff around. So, can you write about 7 things that bring you joy? Thank you, Pause and Reflect. Having really loved this, thank you. And thank you, Rashida. 7 things that bring you joy. What would you say, second one, what would you say to your 7-year-old self? What words of wisdom, given where we are right now, Thank you, West Silvana. What would you say? What words of wisdom would you have to say to your 7-year-old self? And you can write that as a letter to your 7-year-old self. I feel moved just saying that, actually, just thinking about writing to my 7-year-old self. And third one, 7 things that you commit to doing differently beyond the pandemic. What's been the learning? What's been the wisdom that you've really embodied from this time? What are you taking away with you? So there you go. 3 writing prompts, 7 things that bring you joy. Write a letter to your 7-year-old self. What words of wisdom would you have for your 7-year-old self? And 7 things you can commit to do differently during the pandemic. So I will be back. Let me see if I can remember the date that I am back here. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, I am back Monday the 3rd of August. I will do them a bit more frequently once I get past August. But for now, we're doing them monthly. As I said, I will be announcing what I will be doing now in the future in Psychologies magazine. So keep a lookout for that on my Instagram handle or on Psychologies magazines. I know that most of you are obviously following Psychologies, and it's great to have you here. You can go back into some of my old blog posts on Psychologies platform. Don't forget that if you want to get the magazine, you can get it posted out to you. It's a lovely arrival in your post box. You just need to go to the link in the Psychologies Instagram handle and on the bio. So it's been fabulous. Thank you all for being here. I hope you get your pens, your notebooks out, you have them ready with you, you travel with them. I hope the prompts will take you through the week. I hope that you have fun doing the 7 minutes of spiritual grace, and some of you might find it even beneficial to really start with the morning pages. And I look forward to seeing you back here on August the 3rd at 5 o'clock. Take care. Bye. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Karma Life. Lovely having you here. So let's just see. Thank you, Anne. And I am going to, let's just see how I can make sure I save this. Thank you, Timmy. Thank you, Dina. I'm glad it was so useful. Really appreciated your presence and your input here as well. Lovely. Thank you, Pause and Refocus, for your great participation and for confirming about Kew Gardens. And I'm glad you got back on to the live call as well. It's been great having your contribution. Lovely, thank you. Thank you, Deb Mac. Thank you. Save to Instagram. So, Anne, I'm going to press end now. Is that correct? Let me just wait till I get a little signal from you. Thank you, Dina.